and welcome back to the Reaper. So we're in our AJS37 Viggen and we're going to do the Cockpit tutorial. Now before we do that, I should explain that this is a high fidelity model. In DCS you get low and high fidelity. High fidelity like this one means that all of the gauges and all the buttons work and all of the systems, or almost all of them, are modelled. In a low fidelity aircraft you wouldn't, for instance, be able to interact with all these controls and buttons down here. So that means this is going to be quite a long video, so please stick with us. Generally speaking, it is logically set out, the Viggen, but it is very different. It doesn't really follow NATO trends or Russian trends. The Swedish tend to do their own thing, we find. Right, so jumping right to the left and the back, we'll do left panel, then dash, then right panel. So back here is our data cartridge input. So when a mission is created in the briefing hut somewhere, that data for waypoints and stuff like that is put onto a data cartridge. It's then plugged into this here, and just out of interest I can do it now, and that basically inserts that information into the computer. We'll have to do some other stuff to make it work, but that's essentially that. Right, next we get to my favourite lever in the entire of DCS, my beautiful Automatische Fahrtkontrolle. This one here. This basically is autopilot but for the throttle, so if you've got it turned on, then it will keep you at, I think it's 550 clicks per hour. Would you agree with that, Star?
Depends whether your gear is down or not, but as long as it is up, then yes.
I've heard that you can land with Automatische Fahrtkontrolle, is that true?
Yes, you can.
That's a lazy man's way of landing. Cat would never do that. Right, that's fine. Next you've got your landing gear, up and down, whacking big lever. Next you've got, I know this is quite hard to see, you've got something underneath the lever I've never seen before, a blue lever. It doesn't appear to be functional anyway, so I'm going to ignore it. I'm going to see if oh, it's a cabin air valve. It's a cabin air valve, doesn't appear to function for whatever reason. Right, next we get that handle out the way for the time being. You can obviously pull the gear lever up and the gear won't retract until you are airborne. It's got a weight on wheel sensor to prohibit you from doing that. Next you've got, these are cabin interior lights basically. You can use the scroll wheel or the left mouse and drag, and they are different basically types of lights. So some will be instruments lights, some will be floodlight and whatnot, and some will be panel lights. Okay, where do we go next? If we go to the left slightly, we've got, it's a backup trim style. I never fully understood this.
Yeah, there's a backup trim system in case your main trim fails, and you can turn it on.
Roger, so we can adjust roll trim, we can do pitch trim, and yaw trim. Okay, that's fine, that will make sense. I've never had a trim failure, but I guess it's a thing. Next, if we go up the sidewall, we've got this. Now, I believe this is our air-to-air sidewinder panel. I've never actually used it, so let's see what we've got. We've got a non-functional thing there, a non-functional thing there. Non-functional, non-functional, here is the sound adjustment of the, this is the master volume, actually, I remember, of everything that makes a sound in the cockpit. So RWR, anything that makes a sound, the tone of the sidewinder that comes through a speaker of some kind, that is your master volume, basically. Non-functional, 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 non-functional. So that's the only thing that works there. Next, let's go down. We're going to get into, what are we getting into here? It is the FR22. This, from memory, is the backup radio. We've got two radios. One here, the FR24, I think, and the FR22 backup radio. This one here does not have manual input. We have certain presets that are set in the mission editor. We've got a volume, and we've got our flight recorder. I don't think that does anything. And that's all we've got functional. We've got radio tutorial video in the Viggen playlist if you want to see more about that. Next, we're going to go up to our radar panel. Right, so where do we start? Here's our radar stick. We can move this left, right, up and down, and we can't actually click it in the cockpit here. We have to set buttons to it, and this allows us to manipulate items within our radar screen, which will be there. We've got buttons all over the stick. The A buttons at the top here, which we can't press with our mouse, but we can press again with keyboard. They basically control the master mode of the radar on, off, on, or B-scope mode. We've got our radar range there, and that has to be controlled by keys as well. Now, you can't really see them. There are a series of other buttons behind and underneath attached to this stick. We've got the T buttons, which allow us to do targeting targeting functions with weapons. So we've got a memory button there, we've got another button there, and another button there, and I'm not going to go over them because you can't click them anyway in here, so they're not too important for this. Right, a non-functional button here. We've got here, again, all regards our radar here. So we've got land or sea mode. So obviously this is mainly a ground-facing radar, a ground radar. So you've got to tell it whether you're over the sea or over the land. Next, you've got longitude or linear mode. This is regards the method of processing that the radar is going to do to give you a display. Do you want to add anything to that, Stahl?
Yeah, it's logarithmic. Basically what it does, it compresses everything that's further away, but gives you better resolution for things that are closer. So it's kind of comparable to setting a curve on a stick. Just gives you more precision close up and less precision far away. Yeah, it's a trade-off.
Agree with that. Let me just get my memory. What's this one? Right, this is an interesting one. So this is pulse switch, basically. So the radar, when it sends out its radiation, is going to be in frequencies known as the Doppler effect, and we can change between frequencies here. We can have normal or short, and they are basically going to adjust the way that the radar functions and the returns that it receives, sends out, and receives. Do you want to add anything to that a bit better, Stahl?
Negative. I'm not that familiar with it myself.
I do actually know about it. I can't really explain it at the moment. Anyway, so that is that in a nutshell. Next, we've got our passive recce. Now, I've never really worked out what this does, but apparently, if you turn the passive recce on, you can work the radar in a passive mode where it's not emitting. And I've no idea how that works because a radar needs emit radiation to work. So, and I've questioned people, and no one seems to know what that does, if it does anything in DCS. So, just
from what I understand, it will basically just work as a radar sensor, and it will show you other radio signals or radar signals.
So, isn't that an RWR? That's an RWR, Stahl.
No.
That's what annoys me. I just couldn't get any function out of it. I've tried using it, and it just didn't work for me. So anyway, well, that's the best we can display it. Now, this radar of ours that's displayed on the screen here may be jammed by a hostile, and we've got anti-jamming modes here, 0, off, or different jamming modes here. I've never actually found a use for it in DCS, but just accept for the time being that they're there.
I have actually had ships jamming, which can be quite annoying and make it almost impossible to get a proper location on them on the radar.
Roger, so what would you do? Just cycle through your jamming modes until you got some decent signal?
Last time that happened, I actually didn't know about this problem yet, so I just didn't.
You awful man. Right, yeah. Okay, that's fine. Well, that's there now. The FR, I think this is called the FR24, the main radio. Let me just check. I can't. I think it is anyway. I've got a tutorial on this, so I'm not going to go in too much detail about it. These buttons here are the presets. The flight group presets 0 to 9. They don't work. Knobs here, from memory, they can select different presets again they don't work. Preset selectors here do work, or most of them do work, and if we want to use the manual channel selector, which is here for the radio, we use the minus sign there. But again, got a proper tutorial on that, so go and watch that. Primary warning light bank, just above here. Anything you want to add? Do you know any difference between the warning light bank on the left and on the right, Stahl?
Well, I mean, they're complementary. You'll kind of need both of them. Oh. It's not just warning lights, it's also indicator lights for things like your gears, your air brakes, and all that kind of stuff.
Absolutely. What you tend to have in aircraft is that you'll have one bank is generally indicator lights, therefore non-lethal, I guess you'd say. And another one is the warning bank, where the bad things are going to happen. However, on the Viggen, I found a bit of a mixture of both. In fact, let me just turn my electrics on quickly and do my test. Yeah, you see, there's a bit of a mixture of both. Both have got red lights, so I don't think there's any real system there as far as I'm aware. Right, let's knock it back and left. We've got a thrust lever. We need to uncage it by pressing that to work. Whee! Thrust lever. That now, buttons I've not pressed. Let's have a look at these. We've got an autopilot yaw trim. Autopilot yaw trim. So if you can put it in autopilot, which is these buttons here, presumably you can adjust a little bit of yaw, which is left to right movement with that trim. Would you agree with that, Stahl?
Yep.
Emergency canopy release. If for some reason you had to get rid of your canopy, like your aeroplane was on fire, press that button there. Right, we've got, I think this is the restarter. Let me just check.
It is.
Yep, restart. So if you are in a world of pain and you've stalled your engine at high altitude and you need to restart it, use this button here. I've got a proper tutorial on that, how to do the operation. So for the time being, we'll just accept it's there. Here is the generator, the electrical generator, and we've got Fran, which is off, and Till, which is on. That's Swedish. If we go to the left, here's the starter button. So basically, if I want to start the engine, once I've got the relevant switches turned on, I'll click that to left click, it'll start, and when it's finished its start procedure, it'll click back to F-Fran off. Above that, we've got the ignition system. Now, I've never actually used the ignition system button. Do we know what that does? Is it just something you leave on all the time? No, it's auto or manual. That's interesting.
Yeah, I'm frankly not sure when you'd usually use that, but you just leave it on auto.
Yeah, agreed. Next, main electric. So if you want your electrics on, then turn it on. Our low pressure fuel valve here is something you'll need on for your fuel to flow, basically. Right, we're going to move up the cockpit. We've got center roll. Oh, it doesn't function, so it doesn't matter. Next, we've got trim gauges. So whenever you trim your aircraft, you want to know how you've trimmed it. And here we've got some absolute gauges. So this is going to be our pitch trim, nose up and nose down. You see a standard, it's like 2 degrees down. Now, I'm afraid I don't know the other two. Do you know what the other two are?
Yeah, they're pressure gauges. The center one is for your brakes, and the top one is for your cabin pressure.
Right, okay. Yep, that's fine. So both 0 at the moment because obviously our plane is turned off and our canopy is open.
I think the unit that's generally used for pressure navigating is also kilogram per square centimeter.
Roger, very metric. This button here is our warning lights, to check our warning lights as we saw earlier. This one here is non-functional, so we don't know what that is. We have 2 exterior light switches here, kind of hard to get to. We've got the taxi landing lights, which will be on when they're down. And we've got the emergency lights again on when they're down. Nice little warning panel here of some sort that I can't read. Next, thrust reverse lever. If we want to reverse thrust when landing, then like so. And obviously we'll cover that properly in the landing and takeoff tutorial.
It's basically emergency procedures, by the way, on the left, and also on the right you have a second panel for other ones, just checklists. Roger.
I've just realised I've gone past our countermeasure master dispense here. We've got 3 modes of dispensing the countermeasures here. However, this system either just isn't fully implemented yet or isn't working properly. I've done a video on this and I just can't get this working properly. Do you have anything to add to that?
It's a bit of a pain in the ass at times, but I do think it works reasonably well.
I can't get it to emit flares at all. I've tried everything I can. It won't emit flares. It'll emit a chaff occasionally. But maybe we'll have to redo that one at some point.
I can try that afterwards if you want.
Roger. Right, next, radio, a light here. This comes on green when your reverser is on. Next, we've got our manual radio input. So if we want to tune into a certain channel manually, i.e. rather than a reset, then we've got knobs here that we can adjust to turn that. We can't do anything at the moment because we've got no power. Yes, we can. We do that with the mouse scroll wheel. Again, covered in the radio tutorial. And we can switch between modulation of FM and AM on the VHF band. In fact, I think it can carry UHF as well, but again, look at the proper video. Next, we've got our speedo. That is IAS, indicated airspeed in kilometers per hour times 100. And it can go pretty dang fast, this plane. It can go up to Mach 2, I think, or just above. And we've got our...
Well, at last, it's like Mach 1.35 usually. That's where you're most of the time going to be anyway.
Roger, we've got our Mach meter here, so, you know, that is what it is, obviously. We've got our autopilot lights. Spark is our basic stability control, attitude hold there, and altitude hold there. When you have altitude hold on, it will also have your attitude on as well. And you can turn them off. Very easy to use, very intuitive. The little thing just below that, I've got a couple of warning lights. Do you any idea what they are? I've never seen them come on.
Yeah, that is well, it's actually because it's a button, you would have to press it. It's AFK mode 3, so you're gonna use that in conjunction with the auto throttle for very short landings. But you're only gonna use it on a very light airframe, I believe, underneath 40% fuel and clean.
Roger. There's also something that says alpha 15 degrees or something. Is that what we're talking about?
Okay. That's the same thing.
Roger, I never used that, but okay. Warning light cancel. So when there's a warning light, there's a warning going on, these will flash and you can cancel it by clicking that. Here is our primary artificial horizon. This tells us our attitude, our roll, our pitch and whatnot. And it is currently caged, i.e. fixed, because it's got the red flag on. If it was uncaged, it would not have this red flag on. And we've got a non-functional knob here, which should be an adjuster, but it doesn't seem to work. So I've missed our angle of attack gauge, very important because this plane likes to stall if the angle of attack gets above 20 degrees, really. So that's something to keep an eye on. Oh, we've got a turny knob at the bottom left of the HUD. I've never seen that before. It is a HUD brightness knob. Okay, didn't know that was there, but that's the thing that's there. We're going to go down to our primary altimeter. It's in, we've got 2 needles, so the big one must be, what, hundreds of meters, and the fat one, thousands of meters. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
Okay, we've got that there, and we've got our QFE setting here. So it's currently 0 to this airport. If we wanted to change our QFE, because we wanted to attack a target at a certain altitude, we would turn this knob to the pre-calculated QFE. I've got a video on how to calculate QFEs. Okay. So we're going to go south now. We've got your obligatory rudder pedals. Got our control stick. Here is our safety release for our fire button, but we wouldn't actually click it there like that. We would do it on the joystick like I'm doing now. So joystick aside, we've got some controls beneath the joystick, so I'm just going to hold that out of the way. We've got our parking brake there. When it's pulled out, it is parked. We've got a non-functional lever above. We've got these circuit breakers, Charles.
No, these are cabin light intensity knobs.
Oh, they're not turnable, are they?
No.
No. That and that's not turned up. Nothing else works there, basically. So that's that. Just checking around to make sure I haven't missed anything. Nothing else functional around here. Primary, we've got a radar screen here. Again, we've got a radar tutorial, so you can go and watch that if you want to see how to use the radar. It can be used in standard mode or B-scope mode. We've got our RWR lights around that. Again, we've got an RWR video if you want to go and check that out. So that works in terms of lights, shining lights at different angles and audio sounds. Next, we've got our compass rose around that. It's a really good compass rose. One thing a plane should always have is a big, fat compass rose for emergencies, and that's got that. So generally speaking, whatever numbers to the 12 o'clock position is where we're heading. So we're heading at 265 or something like that. It's currently caged because of the cage sign there, and the bracket, the E bracket, the yellow one, is where our next waypoint is, and we don't have any waypoints set at the moment, but it could be anywhere around the compass rose. Some lovely, yes.
Also, one thing that's kind of easy to miss at the bottom left of that, there's a little black button sticking out. It says snub resonance if you go over it with the mouse. That's your compass quick adjust, basically.
Where is it, Charlotte? Up, left, down, right?
45-degree bottom left of the compass. It's a little black thing that's sticking out over the white background.
Yeah, I got it. I've never seen that before. Schnabber something or other.
Snub resonance, yeah.
Okay, well that's the thing I didn't know about. So we're learning today, Char. Very good. Low altitude warning light. This big red light here is if you're getting just below a certain point, and I can't remember what that is, measured in radar altimeter.
From what I've seen, this only actually comes on if you input your altitude told at low altitude. If you just fly low, it won't annoy you at all.
It's actually wrong, Charles. It does. If you're just flying low, it passively talks to your radar altimeter and does flash. Yeah, I know all about that.
Tried that 2 days ago and it did not do anything until I put in my fucking altitude hold. I don't know.
Oh, we're going to agree to disagree on that, Charles. Right, next we're moving up. HUD brightness adjust, we've just discovered. HUD brightness glass, HUD glass up and down. And I always get this mixed up. Is it, oh god, is it attack? You want it up for attack, don't you?
It primarily just depends on your flight altitude. So for landing, takeoff, and general low altitude flight, you want it down. For most other things, you want it up. If you're doing low altitude bombing and such, you also generally want it down.
Roger. Now the reason I don't know why is because I like to adjust my seat. Because I've got a weird track AR that's a little bit bugged in the Viggen, rather than doing that, I adjust my seat up and down all the time, which I can't do with the power off. Let's see if I can do it with the power on. See, up and down and up. So I do that throughout the flight just because I have to, because of my dodgy track IR. Hence I never use that glass personally, but it's a thing there. Here's your HUD glass. Obviously it displays when it's turned on, which I can't do at the moment. It displays your various HUD. Again, I've got a HUD tutorial, obviously you can go look at if you want to know more about that. So we're going to go to the right. We've got our RB75 Scope. So RB75s, they are copy and license of Mavericks, AGM65s, old versions I think they are. And if we look in this little display here, we'll see what the Maverick IR sensor, optical sensor, is seeing, and you can aim it through that basically. Have you got anything you want to add to that, Stahl?
Nope.
Down, chronometer. Never used it, but we've got adjuster maybe. Just got a clock setting. So it's not
just the bottom left, you also in the top right do have a stopwatch button.
Yep, found that. Lovely, that's fine. I failed last. This button is once you're dropping a sequence of bombs, it will shine red when all of your bombs have gone, and that's how you know when all of your bombs have gone. Next, these little mothers always confuse me. Slav SI is about what's going to be displayed on the HUD, but can you clear that up, Charles?
Yeah, it turns the low altitude mode on and off. It just declutters your HUD a little bit, gets rid of a couple of non-essential things so you can see more clearly. Okay,
as usual, fan and tail off and on. This here is our altimeter switch, whether we want to use radar or barometric, and I've forgotten which way. RHM, is that barometric?
Yeah, just remember the R stands for radar, basically, and L be Lufttryck or something along those lines, so it's barometric.
Understood. Backup ADI here, got a cage button here, nothing else to say about that, I don't think. Backup altimeter, we've got the adjuster here. Now, I think I'm right in saying, Stahl, that the main altimeter is Q and E, QFE, the right altimeter is Q and H. Would you agree with that? Or have I got that wrong?
No, well, it depends how you set it up.
Okay. I don't really know. I'm not a pilot myself. I don't know. It's just
I'm not a real life pilot myself, so I'm not sure how you would use it.
Okay, properly. So we're not entirely sure, but I just get the feeling that's Q and H. That is QFE.
In the Viggen, generally speaking, I just leave the backup altimeter zeroed, particularly if you need, to the airfield it is.
Yeah.
Particularly if you do need the other one to set up your weapons.
Roger. Okay, fine. Now, I've never used this dial before. It looks like a radio compass. What is it, Star?
It's the backup compass is all it is.
It's just a backup compass. And yeah, you can see we're pointing towards that 269. Yes, that's fine. Understood. Right. This must be a G accelerometer, mustn't it? Up and top right.
Yep.
Yeah, accelerometer tells you whether you're doing plus 8G or negative 2G. Be careful in this plane when you're pulling G at high speed. You'll black out really quickly. For some reason, it just happens in the Viggen. And B, your tail wings off. It's really annoying. Next, is that a backup speedo?
Yep.
Backup speedo, IAS, kilometers per hour times 100. Now I think this is the engine fan RPM. It is, isn't it?
That's exactly right.
Yeah, in percent, so that's 100%, that's 20%, so that's fine. Afterburner stages. Afterburner has 3 stages. There's a cooled afterburner in this jet. Stage 1, Stage 2, Stage 3, depending on which lights are shown. Simple as that, really. Next, we have something I don't actually know. Do you know? Something to do with the engine, but what the pressure? It's pressure efficiency or something, isn't it?
It's called the engine pressure ratio indicator. It shows you the ratio between the intake and the exhaust of the engine gas generator. So roughly, this is equivalent to how much thrust your engine is currently producing.
Understood. So that's that. We've got our Transonic Warning here. Now, if this plane gets transonic, so that means just before Mach 1, it has a nasty ground effect where it gets sucked towards the ground, and it's very dangerous. And here is a red warning light to tell you when you are in that transonic zone. Here is our Waypoint Navigation selector. If we're selected to a certain waypoint of interest, or an airbase, or a selectable navigational point, it will display there, the next one that's in the sequence. Here is our distance to next waypoint, and so if that was a waypoint, say waypoint 1 selected there, we'd have a distance. It measures in kilometers as standard, up to 40 kilometers. If you get above 40 kilometers, it turns to Swedish miles, which is 10 kilometers per Swedish mile. Yeah, so it will say miles or kilometers there. Next, we've got our fuel. We're just over 100%. If we had a fuel tank on, we can get all the way up to 120%. Right.
Don't forget the little tie finger, the black and white thing that basically shows you how much fuel you are supposed to have left at the end of your current flight.
I was unaware of that. Now, how does it set that? The end of your waypoint course or your next waypoint?
At the end of your waypoint course, as far as I understand.
Interesting. I was unaware of that. Another thing learned. The other warning panels we spoke about. Next, we've got... Now, I forget the name of this computer. It's essentially our navigation computer. Do you know the name of the navigation computer?
It's usually just referred to as the data panel.
Data panel, that'll do. Here's the display, where we can... we've got a digital display here. Here is the master. I just realised I've missed an important knob. I'm going to just skip back here. I completely skipped over the master mode knob on the left side, just in front of the radar stick. This is pretty much the most important switch. It controls what your Viggen's going to do. Burr is standby. That's your default mode if you're sitting on the runway. Navigation, just for your general flying. Be careful not to leave it in nav. If you're sitting on the ground for a long time, you'll corrupt your navigation system and it will ruin your mission. I've done it many times. ANF, basic attack mode. Is that right, Star?
Yeah.
SPAR. I've never used SPAR. Do we know what that is?
I forgot.
We don't know what SPAR is. Please let us know. Landing modes, basic navigation mode, you'll use this for the TILS system, the ILS system. And now landing mode PO, I've never used. Do we know what PO is?
You could use it for the auto landing.
No, nav is for the auto landing.
Is it? Okay.
We don't know what PO is. Please let us know what PO is. So I've never used SPAR and I've never used PO basically. I've never had a reason to. So you're probably never going to use it if they work. Right, anyway, back onto our data computer. Master mode selector here, act pause. This is the default mode you will leave it in when you're going to be flying. So whenever you're not typing stuff in, leave it on act pause. Ref, longitude, latitude, that's the main mode you use for editing, adding waypoints, adjusting waypoints, stuff like that basically. Now, I apologise, but I haven't used the next three. Do you know what the next three are? Bana, Wind und Tide.
Wind Mall would be for wind, you're out, and Mall means goal, basically, or you know. Tide is time.
Oh.
Banegrenz, I'm frankly not sure anymore.
Roger.
Tact is to input tactical information, usually for things like RB15s and such.
Yeah, but I like to think of tact as anything weapon-based. Anything weapon-based, you seem to use tact, basically.
Yeah.
Do you know what IDNR means?
No, never had to use that.
Okay, so basically, for all my flying with the Viggen, the only ones I've ever used are tact for weapon information, longitude, latitude for essential basic, geographical, and the default mode. Okay? We've got in and out. If you want to input data, you're going to be in. If you want it on just a standard where you don't want to input anything, that is your default out. Keypad with the 0 over here, which is kind of weird. Button here, I've never actually pressed before, so let's see what he is. He is oh yeah, this computer is called the CK37, by the way. What is that button there? Clear. Oh, I've never seen that.
Clear button.
Oh, so if I've typed a bunch of stuff in and I didn't want it, I could clear it. That's interesting.
Well, generally you just cycle in and out. I think this will actually delete a bunch of shit, so you can fuck up your flight data, your computer if you just use that randomly.
Yeah, and that's a good point as well. It is really easy to mess stuff up generally with this, so you've got to be super careful. Make sure you don't leave it in, for instance. Make sure you don't leave it on ref, longitude, latitude. Just be a little bit careful with it, because it is a bit upsettable. Right, let's keep going south, shall we? A thing, I don't know what that thing is. Another thing, don't know what that thing is. Next, the bane of my life. Sorry?
Talking about those big black things sticking out underneath the data panel. That's a microphone.
It's a microphone?
Yeah, it's a microphone.
For your radio?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Weird, but fine. Next, the bane of my existence, the countermeasures in the Viggen, which I just can't get my head around. Right, let's have a look. We have our jammer operations selector. I've got a tutorial vid on this. I'm going to redo it because it's not very good. But here is essentially our master mode for our jammer selector. And here are within each mode we have basically bands. So within each of these modes we have a different band. But we'll go over that on the proper video. Right, I'm just going to get my track IR working if I can. What we've got next is more countermeasures, I believe. So we've got countermeasure. Well, sorry, I breezed over that a bit quick. What I meant to say was these are the jammers for the jammers countermeasures. So you can run that in different modes and different bands within each mode of jamming. Next, we've got the countermeasures as in chaff and flare. This switches between chaff and flare. This is our streak mode. I don't think the streak mode works. Can you confirm, Star?
I think it does, but I'll have to try again.
Okay. We'll try that. We'll go over that a bit more, but I couldn't get it working in thorough testing. Next, radar warning indicator. So our RWR, do we want it off? Do we want it lights only? Do we want it lights and sound? Next, we've got our program for the countermeasures. Do we want it on automatic, 0, 1, 2, or 3 pre-programmed modes for releasing chaff and flare? Next, we've got our exterior lights, basically on or off, anti-collision lights on or off. We've got navigation lights, hell or half. I've never understood that. Do you know that, Straw?
Hell is full, half is half.
Roger. And next, we've got our standby, formation lights on or off, and position lights on or off. Roger. Now these, I've never been down the back here, so let's have a look. IFF, various IFF stuff. IFF is not modelled in DCS to this level, so these are essentially non-functional. Let me just check what this last one is. Oh, position light brightness. I didn't know that was a thing, but apparently that's a thing. Oh, that would explain why they're so dark as standard. Look at all these things we're learning. Right. Okay, so that's something learned. Right, next at the front right, we've got some gauges, Charles. Would you like to start beaming over those? Because I don't actually know any. I know one of them is oxygen, but that's all I know.
Yeah, oxygen is the one that's to the very back that says Syrgas. The center one is your engine exhaust temperature, and the front one is your nozzle position with the 1, 2, and 3 indicating your current afterburner stage.
I remember that. I never saw the point of that because you've got lights here, but I guess it's there as a backup. Oxygen on or off switch. Right, so next we go on to, I don't really know what to call this panel, Waypoint Selector, something along those lines. So generally speaking, LS selects the airbase, our starting airbase, so that will be where we are now. LMAL will select our conclusion airbase, so where we finish our mission at, which will probably be the same as this one. Here are our different waypoints, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And a BX. BXs are special waypoints you put in for weapons. So if you want to send your weapons along a series of waypoints to avoid, I don't know, obstacles, you have your BX commands. Again, we go over these in the weapons tutorials. We've got buttons at the top that I've not covered. DME and radar altimeter power. So radar altimeter power, is that just for the general, main radar altimeter?
Yeah, it is.
Okay, and DME, any ideas?
You forgot us all.
We don't know what DME is. Someone please let us know. Next, our TIL system, our tactical ILS. This is the instrument landing system. And I'm a little bit rusty on this. I haven't done it in a while, but I believe we can select different air bases. So airbase 14, airbase 15, airbase 16. That was how it worked, wasn't it, Star?
Yeah, to the right of it, you'll have to select whether you want to be in the 1 to 10 or in the 11 to 20 range.
Affirmatively. Right, let's go back. So next we've got windscreen de-ice. As far as I'm aware, it doesn't actually do anything, or not at the moment anyway. Looks cool though. Next. Yes?
No, I just agreed.
Roger.
I definitely had my windscreen ice over, so...
Roger. Next, we've got radar testing mode. Obviously, no relevance to us because we're not a test. This will be for the ground crew, as far as I'm aware.
Yep, absolutely.
Next, we've got button radar EL maintenance test. Again, maintenance testing, nothing that we're interested in. Next, we've got a cover, and under that cover is magnetic declination correct. Oh, this is just up your alley, Stahl. Go.
Yeah, I mean, in principle, this just allows you to correct for the magnetic declination, which is the difference between magnetic north and true north. But it doesn't seem like you can actually turn it. I mean, it is set correctly for Caucasus at least.
Yeah.
I've not actually checked on other maps.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't know whether you could actually adjust that or not.
It doesn't appear to be adjustable from what I can see there. It doesn't appear to be modelled. Right, alright, we're nearly there, Star. Okay, let's continue. Under this switch here is a button that drops our fuel tank. Under this one here is a button that drops our stores. And as well as our stores, it drops the racks that they're carried on. So that will get us clean if we're in trouble and we need to go fast. Very useful button, which all planes had that. Next is our weapon selector. We won't dwell on it, but it changes between the different types of weapons modes that we're going to be using when using our weapons, and we cover that in all the various weapons tutorials. Next, we've got the interval selector. So I don't want to go over this in too much detail, but just as a for instance, if I wanted 10 meters between my bombs, I would go to 10. If I wanted to drop 40 meters between my bombs, we've got that there. And we've got some inner commands there, but again, we'll go through them properly in the weapons tutorials. It's pointless going over them now. Next, more weapon selectors. Now, I've had some experience with this. We've got weapons release mode, series, and imp. Do you remember what imp stands for?
Impulse. So it's basically whether you want to drop singles or just launch everything.
So
basically single or ripple mode.
So I'll usually have series ripple for dropping a long streak of bombs, basically. Next, we've got Val B or STD. Oh, I've forgotten that.
It's a targeting mode selector, so it depends what weapons you have on. For the RB04s, if it's on top on grip, it would look for group targets. On the bottom on ankle, it would look for single targets. If you have RB15s or Mjolnirs, the PK90s. On the right valve would be to have a custom setup with your waypoints and actually your targeting modes. So, you know, the size of the search area, for example, for an RB15 you can change and which target it's going to prioritize and such. Or you can just put it down to standard and it will use the default setup.
Roger. Now take note here that these switches have slightly different meanings depending on which weapons you've got selected. There is a little code down at the bottom here, so RB04s, RB15s, and what they do. But again, we'll cover that in the weapons tutorials rather than trying to explain every function now. Next, it looks like an IFF panel, but let's see. It's an IFF panel, so this allows you to set your IFF codes for the day, and they've actually put the switches in and stuff like that, which is cool. But like I said, IFF isn't really modelled to that degree in DCS, at least at the moment, so it has no real function. Skipping forward and up, now this is a load of switches I've never used before, so this should be interesting. At the top, manual fuel regulator, so I'm guessing that's something you just want to leave to automatic.
Yeah, I would certainly recommend that.
Okay, next you've got an indicator system test. And I've never pressed that before, so I'm going to just have a quick press.
If you hold it down, it just lights up, for example, your low altitude warning. You will see that your fuel gauge goes to, I believe, 30% and a couple other things like that.
Okay, test switch. Yep, understood. Okay, next we've got
implemented.
Tank pump doesn't work. We've got manual afterburner fuel regulator. Absolutely no idea. Any idea?
This is actually something you would have with a MiG-21 as well, where you can basically manually turn off the afterburner. So if you go stick throttle all the way forward, you'd just be on full mill instead of burning.
How interesting. Ah, we got it in the F-18 as well. Yeah, weird. But okay, I've never really understood the point of that, but okay, fine. Can't pronounce it, and it is a backup generator. Ah, I didn't know we had a backup generator. So if this little mother fails, then we've got a backup here. So that's interesting. Next, we've got a pitch gear automatic landing. Never pressed it. Any ideas?
Yeah, as far as I understand, this basically reduces your stick sensitivity at higher speed.
Oh, wow, that's actually exactly what I need. I wish I knew that. Right. So remember, turn that on. Is it on by standard? No, it's off by standard. Right. Very good. Yes, pitch sensitivity. Yeah, so you don't black out and die all the time like I always do. How interesting. Next, we've got, if I can get it, engine de-ice. It will de-ice the engine, I guess, when you're up high or just generally cold, I suppose. So that's the thing. Fine. Circuit breakers, autopilot, high alpha warning. Come on, baby. CB trim. Yeah, trim. CB, that's the Slav SI, isn't it? For the HUD.
Yeah, I think so. Not entirely sure what the revision
ejection and engine. So I guess they're just things that you always want to leave in so that they actually work. Right, at the very back, I've missed a couple. We've got ignition coils, which are going to be on, otherwise we're not going to have much of an engine. We've got dry suit ventilation adjustment. Cool. Okay, well that's a thing, but I'm made of ones and zeros at this point, so that's not going to affect me very much. And nothing else there is clickable. If we look back, we've got our ejection handle arm, which we need to do that, otherwise you can't eject. That's caught me out quite a few times. We've got an on-off switch here that doesn't appear to function. Do you think I've missed anything, Stahl?
I don't know, the mirrors. Did we talk about the canopy handle? I mean, it's pretty straightforward.
Where is the canopy handle? I've never actually found that. Oh, yeah, sorry, yeah, so you do that, left click or right click to close it. In fact, I don't know how to open it, Stahl. How do you open the canopy?
You just pull it back all the way. It's a 3-stage lever.
Understood. Yep, that's fine. So left click and right click do each one of those things. Right, so that's pretty cool. Now, I've done lots of more complicated planes than this in the cockpit, and now I've done the more complicated planes. This actually seems really simple and pretty logical. Any final thoughts, Charles?
Nope.
I hope that helps, and we'll see you later.